Good evening. Get that switched over. It'd be nice if I could just have these turned on right away. Whoa. Uh-oh. 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 There we go. Gotta love StreamYard. Let me turn this music down. A lot of stuff to discuss tonight. Some of the stuff we discussed last night in our true crime online pool hall. Then there's a couple other things as well. I'm going to show you a video on how experts and criminals can clone your key fob, garage door opener, and such. Now, a couple weeks after the case was going, I was kind of looking around. We were using the drone footage to, for me to kind of see, like, no signs of forced entry. We heard about the front door of Nancy's being solid tight, like nobody was going to be able to get into that. So I wanted to explore other possibilities and other things that made sense. Now, the first photo that I took, and I'll show you guys here in a few minutes. But the first photo I took was of the garage door and the little, where the air conditioner is. There's a little small rectangular section that really it's not going to be locked. It's just going to have a latch. Anybody could go in there and clone a key fob or a garage door opener. So when I was looking at those photos back then, I just wasn't even thinking about the garage door opener being cloned. And really, when you're trying to think about it in the basic terms, the back door was the prime area, and I kind of broke it down back then. But I'm going to take you guys back to that photo here, and I'm going to show you guys the scene again. I'm going to show you guys how a criminal can clone your key fob, take your car, clone your garage door opener. The technology exists. And so who's to say, right? No forced entry. Who's to say that they didn't clone the garage door opener and waited until, 1:30, hit the button. The garage door is on the complete opposite end of the house where Nancy slept. And so would she really notice the garage door opening? Now, most people, they live in a safe neighborhood. I live in a safe neighborhood. My garage door is my door. There's no reason to lock the door that goes from the garage to the house. And there's probably a lot of you that do the same thing. No forced entry. I still personally think that it was through a window that was left unlocked, probably a kitchen window that always looked outside. I need to lift it up to tell the children, why am I going to? I live in a safe neighborhood. I got a gate going around my backyard. I got this landscaping brick wall that's surrounding the property. Why do I need to lock the kitchen window? Just like the garage door. So I'm going to show you guys that. There's been a lot of discussion since since Savannah let her feelings be known about Ashley Banfield and the reckless reporting. Now, it's something that we said back then when this whole Tommaso Annie's stuff was taking place. And like I said, I'm not there. I wasn't there. I don't know. But as time goes on, it's like, okay, we've seen enough people, and I don't know, maybe this is people's first case that they're coming across. I don't know. But when it comes to like, there's been a lot of people in a lot of different cases that have been blamed for a lot of different things that had absolutely nothing to do with the crime. And the social media age, you see, I mean, you can go back to, we're talking about Ashley Banfield. You can go back to Idaho 4 with Ashley Banfield's reporting and how reckless it was. It was always sources close to the investigation. And then I'm going to say some wild ass stuff just to be first. And there was a lot of stuff that wasn't even true with the Idaho 4 case. How many times did we hear from Ashley Banfield that Brian Koberger had a ID of one of the victims in his shoebox at the Pennsylvania search? How many times did we, how many other things did we hear from Ashley Banfield? And the stuff never came out to be true. A lot of stuff we had to wait 3 years. 3 years we had to wait for court documents to come out for the Idaho 4 case just to find out that a lot of Ashley Banfield's reporting is bullshit. The same thing has been happening with Nancy's. That's why when Ashley Banfield first came out and reported that Tommaso was a suspect, according to her source close to the investigation, I was saying to people, you got to slow down. He hasn't even been named a person of interest. People were looking up his bandmates. I was saying, how do you, like, maybe that band that other buddy plays in is what feeds his children. How in the hell are you going to sit there and throw mud at somebody which could cost their way to feed their children when you know what, you see how reckless this is? This is what Ashley Banfield did because she was the one that first came out and said that Tommaso was a suspect. Then all of a sudden, picture comparisons, you got experts in chat saying the same height as, you don't even know. How do you know? How do you know? You got a tape measure up against where you went to Nancy's house, you got a tape measure and you measured the little entrance there, and then you were standing next to Tommaso, and then you could measure him, and then you're like, there we go. Solve the case. But with that, then all of a sudden bandmates were getting involved. Then all of a sudden all this other stuff of people that weren't even named a person of interest or even a suspect. Day 45, still no suspects. The sheriff has theories. The sheriff has timelines. The sheriff has all this information, but yet there's still no suspects, still no persons of interest, still nothing. And it makes me wonder, is Sheriff Nanos lying to us about there being suspects or leads that are going to go places? You heard them a few days ago how they got new leads, and yes, we're gonna find. When have we ever heard the FBI ever come out and make any statements regarding this case? Not one. Not one. You've had a lot of ex-FBI. You've had a lot of ex-law enforcement. You had a lot of ex, but you never had any of the current come out and make a statement. other than Sheriff Nanos. Sheriff Nanos is invested in looking competent. He's invested in looking like he's got things going on, that nothing is going cold because he's got a TV show to worry about. Desert Law, he's got to worry about the TV show. Now there's a lot of stuff about there's a recall that's about to happen for Sheriff Nanos. Have you guys heard about that? There's people that are trying to get a recall going to get Sheriff Nanos out of the office, and I say I hope they win, because honestly, I really feel that the reason that Nancy is not either in her resting place, celebrated by her family, or is sitting on her couch right now is because Sheriff Nanos botched this whole thing from the very beginning. So when I hear recall, I have to say, hell yeah. But Savannah is totally enraged with Ashley Banfield and her reporting. So just like I told everybody back then, slow down. This person hasn't even been named a person of interest. You need to just wait until they are and then do your mud throwing. You know what I'm saying? And it hasn't stopped. You hear it every day. Every day. I can imagine how upset Savannah is. There's ethics involved in this. There's a lot of people on this platform, a lot of people on mainstream media that are just going to give you whatever is shock value, and they don't care, because when they shut their system down, the last thing they think about is you. They automatically go to their bank account when they shut that show down. That's why they'll sit there and say all this stuff, because it's not about reporting factual information. It's not about being respectful. It's not about being respectful to you as a viewer, as somebody that consumes this information, because they're willing to play with your mind too. I don't blame Savannah for being upset. I would be too. And honestly, if I was Tommaso, I'd be talking to a lawyer. Because, listen, none of this started until Banfield had diarrhea of the mouth. And then all of a sudden, look where we're at today. And all of the stuff that has come from and after when Ashley Banfield made that statement. I'd be getting a hold of a lawyer for sure. This whole 2013 segment of Nancy in her bedroom on the Today Show, it's very odd. And, maybe they'll kind of rethink their whole let's make it a family affair when you got 6 different frickin' hosts on the show. Maybe they're going to rethink this stuff, because, like, all of these times that her mother was featured, what kind of show is this? The Today Show. Why are we doing family segments and they're standing in their damn bedroom? Like, why? I can see, like, going out to dinner. That's cool. Yes, my home. I got my sister and my mother, and great. But why are we interviewing your mom in her frickin' bedroom in 2013? Why? Like, for what? Creepy. So somebody saw this video and they used this video from 13 years ago to case out her bedroom. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. You got this information about these new images, additional images, new images. Where's the images being released? Where's the images, right? If they had something to do with the crime or they were suspicious, well then don't you think they would be released? My biggest question when it comes to suspect information being released is why have we still day 45, no direction, no leads. Why are we still waiting for the audio from the ring cam that goes with the frickin' video that we've already seen? Because I'm pretty sure, especially even after the camera gets ripped off the door frame, it's still going to record. I broke it down. Any little teeny movement, whether it's in your pocket, you have it in your hand and you're walking, it don't matter. Any little movement triggers that camera. Automatic. It would have a voice. It would have an audio recording of the person. I don't give a damn if the person grunts because they tripped. It doesn't matter. Mama knows that grunt. Mama's gonna hear, oh my God, now I thought that was my baby's lips. I thought that was my baby's eyes. But I've heard my baby trip before, and that's the sound that my baby makes when he trips. That's gotta be my baby. I better call it in. Why are we still waiting, day 45? For audio? So the whole additional images. Okay. It shows people in the backyard. Okay. So why haven't we seen them? If you have no leads, listen, you've kept the inside of the crime scene sealed up. We don't know where there was blood. I got a little photo we can look at. We don't know if there was blood. We don't know where there was blood. We don't know anything that happened inside the crime scene. So there are things that the person or people that committed this crime are going to know that haven't been released. Why are you not releasing these additional images if you have no lead, no direction, no idea? Why are they not being released? The polygraph tests were passed, according to Sheriff Nanos. Why are we not releasing this stuff? You got locals talking about how Nanos is a lousy leader. People are pushing for recall. But I just think that the sheriff is just coming out with a bunch of stuff that sounds good, that nobody's going to be able to go, we fact checked you, sheriff, and that's not true, because we're not in the investigation. Now, we're not hearing anything from the FBI. No statements, no nothing. So all you can do is go off of Sheriff Nanos. I honestly think, just like the glove that was found 2 miles away, just like all these other things, it's just stuff to create something to make it look like they're doing their job, as in the sheriff's office. Throw confetti in the air. Look at that over there. It's all bright and sparkly. Don't pay attention to this botched investigation. Because when all the glittery things start disappearing out of the sky and I don't have anything to say, hey, look at me, then I'm going to start to look over here, and sheriff don't want that. Because then it's even going to be more apparent that he's the reason why Nancy is not being celebrated with her family, whichever avenue that is. Scott Reich, Crime Talk, had he had a little something to say about Ashley Banfield as well. He didn't call her by name. Shout out to Rosie for shooting that to me. Yeah, he had something interesting to say when it comes to Banfield and the reporting, and it's not just Banfield. It's a lot. It's a lot out there. You see it. You see the titles. You see the thumbnails. You go to the show and you're like, wait, what? Where's it at? That's not what the title says. You got experts talking about the blood injuries. FBI vet reveals what he thinks took place to Nancy. We're going to check that out. So thank you all for joining. Appreciate you. Please hit the like if you have not, and help us hit this algorithm again. I'm going to say what's up to everybody, and I'm going to show you those photos so you can see what I'm talking about. And it looks like StreamYard's bugging. Let me see here. I might have to go off my YouTube. Let's see how far it'll scroll up. What's up, Sandy? Let me see here. Rosie, Caddy, Suzanne, Miriam, what's up? Jay Gallagher, Crystal. What's up, Heather? Yeah, for some reason, it like cut off some. I don't know. It wasn't showing them all. And I need to get rid of that too. There we go. So yes, also YouTube has been buggy and won't default to the live chat unless you click on it under your settings. It's only going to show top chat. So make sure you click the little settings there on your stream and make sure it's selected for live chat, not top chat, because it'll only show just a couple. All right, so I'm going to show you these photos real quick, and then I'm going to show you some technology on how you can clone things. And it makes me wonder, is, going back to the whole garage door theory. I don't know. We'll see. You can let me know. All right, let's remove this. Let's go ahead and let's get these photos showing for you here. All right, so let me see here. Another Today Show photo. All right, so we got Sheriff Nanos right here. Here we go. We got Sheriff Nanos right here. What's the problem, right? So check this out. Recall effort targets sheriff leading Nancy Guthrie case. The sheriff overseeing the high-profile Nancy Guthrie investigation is now facing a major political backlash. Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos is the target of a growing recall effort led by Republican congressional candidate Daniel Bouters, who says frustrated locals across party lines are pushing for a change. According to Bouters, nearly 500 volunteers have already stepped forward to collect signatures as part of the lengthy recall process. Supporters of the recall claim the Guthrie case has been mishandled and point to recent allegations involving Nanos' testimony under oath as the tipping point. Now, I brought it up last night, and we brought it up on the last live stream that I did as well when it comes to Sheriff Nanos, and there was news and reports going on about how he falsely testified under oath about previous punishments that he had received and what for, and what was done in response to those happening. He downplayed the trouble he got into and what he got in trouble for. He downplayed it under oath. So he created false testimony under oath about previous times he was in trouble. Gutierrez also says rank and file deputies voiced concerns and backed a vote of no confidence, though that claim has not been independently verified. To move forward, organizers must collect roughly 120,000 valid signatures within 120 days. I think that they will get the signatures. 120,000 in 120 days. I can guarantee. Well, I don't know if I can guarantee, but I don't know. 120,000 is a big number. 120 days, that's quite a bit of time. Do I think they could get close? Guaranteed. Do I think they can reach that? I don't know. Because it's not like the people that were out there collectively had 120,000 people watching. I don't think 120,000 people in the neighborhood are going to vote. So I don't know. That 120 days, that's 4 months. That's a decent amount of time. What's up, Yoli? That's a decent amount of time. I just don't know if, like I said, I think, how many did JLR have max? 50,000? 50,000? That's not 120,000. You got maybe, how many people in the neighborhood would vote for it? A few hundred, maybe. I don't know. That would be a question. I would have to hear what you have to say. We'll be doing live calls after we check out some of the videos, if anybody wants to call. That's a question that I'd have to. Do you think that they could hit 120,000 valid signatures within 120 days? I don't. Maybe 100,000. I don't even know if 100,000. I don't think so. Maybe if there was more people watching it. I don't know. I mean, I'm talking not like replays, because then you're getting into the millions and stuff. I'm saying like straight up viewers maximum at once. I don't know. And where did the signature? Obviously, the signatures would have to come from the county, Pima County. I don't know. Meanwhile, Nancy Guthrie, the mother of today's shows, remains missing after disappearing on February 1st. I don't know. That's a good question. All right. Picture of the blood. We're going to be listening to some people discuss the blood, the injuries. We'll be getting into that a little bit later. There's another photo of the blood. Now, this is the photo inside the house that I was talking about. Okay, so this was taken. Now, you can see, right, there's not really any blood on this right here. Now, this right here, a lot of people have said it's a comforter. Could be. I don't know. Does it look like it could be? It could be. Does it mean it is? No. Doesn't mean it is. But the only, to me, yeah, it could be a comforter. Probably is a comforter. What would a comforter be doing there? There's a lot of different possibilities of why a comforter would be there. But one thing that you don't see is blood on this rug. So I would, if this was something that was used to transport Nancy from her bedroom to the front, I would assume if there's this kind of blood spatter, which means somebody was alive when they did this. Somebody was alive when it was dripping out. Somebody was alive when they spit it out. So when we're going back to here, well, if Nancy was alive after being transported with the comforter, then you would see blood on this rug. They're not going to levitate her over to where the floor's at and she just bypasses that white rug. No, it's there would be you would see the transfer. You would see, because it's going to soak up into that material, and so a little dot like that is going to soak up double the size. So you would see all of this if that was used to transport, and then they, because remember, it's one thing if she's gone, you're not going to be dripping like this. But when you're dripping like this and you're spitting like this, then yes, you would see blood on the rug. What's up, Rescue All the Dogs? How are you doing? Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody, by the way. Here's the ring cam or the Nest Cam bracket. Not too much damage. I would have expected it to be at least crooked if something was ripped off of it. So it wasn't that hard to get rid of it. Also, I want to say contribution call out to, hold on one second. Contribution call out to Susan B. Thank you so much for the $30 Cash App. Thank you so much, Susan B. All right, I'm going to show you. So this is the photo that I was talking about when it comes to this garage door. So after we're looking at this photo, I'm going to play this video for you. You're going to hear this technology. You know damn well you can get this thing off of Amazon. You can get these kind of things off of Amazon. It's not that hard. And when we're looking at this spot again, this is why I have to ask, was the garage door cloned? Because we've explored everything else. What makes sense to me? This right here is just beyond what I already broke down, because what I already broke down is what I think really took place and how they gained access to the house. This right here is just another possibility. And so when you're thinking about this house, right, we know the cover that it has just from the street. As you don't even have to be in the driveway. You barely can see anything. Now you're at the back of the house. The driveway is still to our left as we're looking at this. You got plenty of cover just right here. You got plenty of cover even if somebody pulls up and drops Nancy off and she starts walking to her garage door. You got plenty of cover already once you start backing out. You've dropped her off a bunch before. There's no reason whatsoever. You've done it. It's a safe neighborhood. You dropped her off a bunch of times before. What? Who says they waited? Who says they waited? One camera that has always been of interest to me too is this one right here, because this one would have recorded any kind of entrance going into this area, anybody hanging out right here, anybody slipping through, anybody leaving. That's why I still feel that they came from the back, hid in that back area, climbed over the wall, gained access through the back door. Now, could this be a possibility? Of course. Because you can get this camera right here. Listen, you can literally walk up the side of this house, go around the corner of the garage, stick under the branches of this tree and literally walk over here and get into here, and that camera's not going to pick you up. It can happen. So can the garage door be cloned? Yeah, it could. All right, so I'm going to play this video for you guys real quick. This is the kind of technology that we're talking about. Let's see. This is from Newsmax. If it'll let me screen share it. One moment.
We've shown you how something as ordinary as a garage door clicker can be a security risk. But those vulnerabilities don't stop there.
Millions of Americans rely on key fobs every day to lock and unlock their cars. And just like with garage clickers, that signal can also be captured.
Crime correspondent Jason Matera joins us now with more on how we can stay safe.
So this is me. I'm locking it.
Yep.
Not pressing anything.
And then I'm going to pop your trunk.
This isn't a parlor trick, and it isn't a prank. It's a working duplicate of a real key fob, cloned in seconds by cybersecurity expert and ethical hacker Ryan Montgomery. Montgomery's day job is usually corporate, probing for weaknesses in business networks and data systems. But this key fob exploit, it's different, it's personal, and it affects nearly everyone.
I think a lot more people need to be aware of this specific attack because it's very dangerous.
Something that's part of everyone's daily routine, just unlocking my car, locking it, remote starting. But by doing that, you're saying I'm at risk of having my car broken into.
Absolutely. Yeah. And any button that you press on that key fob gives an attacker the ability to clone the entirety of your key fob.
And the craziest part, they don't even have to get near you or your vehicle.
If you're 100 yards away and your car still unlocks, I can capture it at that same distance. That's the transmitter. This is the receiver.
So you can be sitting in a parking lot and just capturing every type of signal that's coming.
Exactly. And you'll see the different makes and models coming in. So you'll see, Kia, Hyundai, Ford, Subaru. You'll just see them popping up on the screen as people click buttons on their key fobs.
All it takes is a radio device, about $170, and some firmware from the dark web.
We'll click the Newsmax file. And now I have your entire key fob duplicated from you just pressing the lock button.
You
locked it
with the stolen signal.
And then you want to unlock it? You want me to pop the trunk?
Sure. And I have the key.
You'll have no indication that somebody stole your key fob, and I could come back, a month later and still use your key.
Montgomery says this threat isn't just theoretical. Organized crime rings are already deploying this tactic. And for the most part, the public still has no idea. As for how to protect yourself, right now options are limited and a little old school.
I would use your physical key to lock and unlock your car, and I hate to say that, but that's the reality.
We have to go back in time.
We have to go back in time.
Yeah, you got to go back in time just to lock your garage. Just like people can create the programs and the little devices that can get your credit card information when you get gas. Just like people can clone your key fob, people can clone any kind of transmitted signal. And they don't even have to be at your house. So when somebody gets dropped off at their house, and instead of going through their front door, they hit the garage door opener. Bloop. Now we have to think, hackers, what evidence is there of this person other than the camera stuff? These different ransom notes, ransom letters, don't know where they're coming from. 75% of them, we don't know where they're even coming from. To me, it sounds like people, technology, people that know how to do these things. Now, did they know how to abduct somebody and it not go haywire? No. But could they get the access? Of course. Of course they could. I'm going to play this video from Scott Reich talking about Ashley Banfield and the reporting and how reckless it is. And I love Scott Reich. He's usually he usually is very sarcastic, jokes around a lot. Not on this episode. He was pretty serious about it. Let me see here. It's the timestamp. Let's listen to what he has to say about Nancy Guthrie's case here, and then you can hear what he has to say about Ashley Banfield. Let me see here. 8:54. Let me see here. 1 second. 2 critical dates. 8:54. All right, here we go.
On 2 critical dates in January in the Nancy Guthrie kidnapping. From Tucson, law enforcement officials are probing the abduction of 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie, and they're concentrating on surveillance footage captured on January 11th and January 24th, according to accounts from neighborhood residents. Now, reports show down there that investigators had approached locals specifically seeking video recordings from those 2 dates in the weeks preceding the incident. Now, this development marks a renewed emphasis on earlier timelines in the case, which has now entered its 7th week without any identified suspect or even a possible person of interest. Now, for those who aren't following this case, Guthrie, the mother of NBC News journalist Savannah Guthrie, was last observed at her Tucson residence on the evening of January 31st. And police with the Pima County Sheriff's Department and the FBI maintain that she was taken against her will in the early morning hours of February 1st by an unidentified masked individual captured on the home surveillance system. Now, this latest line of inquiry aligns with prior requests issued by investigators in early February. At that time, officials contacted owners of the nearby regarding their Ring doorbell cameras seeking footage from January 11th between 9 p.m. and midnight, as well as from January 31st between 9:30 a.m. and 11 a.m. Now, the suspect is described as a male, approximately 5 feet 9 inches to 5 feet 10 inches tall, of average build and carrying a backpack, a 25-liter Ozark trail hiker pack, to be specific. Anyway, the Pima County Sheriff, Chris Nanos, has explicitly ruled out Guthrie's relatives as suspects. And in a March 3rd interview on NBC's Today Show, he stated that investigators have substantial intelligence and leads, described the case as targeted, and indicated progress toward a resolution.
See, this is what I'm saying. He says all of this stuff, Sheriff Nano says all of this stuff. But yet, no direction, no leads? What's up, Busby? No direction, no leads? But yet, there's going to be a couple weeks ago, he said it could be 10, 15 years until we find... It'll probably be 10, 15 years. Now, all of a sudden, we're finding a resolution that's going to end soon. The images that were just put out there to the public. Nothing suspicious happened on the photos, and they weren't from the same night. That's what changed. That's what changed in the investigation. They came out with photos. Yeah, there's photos that... Okay. So those photos, which don't show anything suspicious, according to Pima County Sheriff, don't show anything suspicious and are not from the night of when Nancy was taken. Well, then how could those create these avenues and possibilities that you think that there's going to be a resolution? You're talking out of your tail, man. Why did you even say on day 15, 30 days ago, today, 30 days ago, you said it could be 10, 15 years before we find her? Because day 15, you were a hell of a lot closer in the investigation than you are right now. So how in the hell can this evidence, if that's what you want to call it, how can this change things in the investigation to the point where all of a sudden there's going to be a resolution soon? It doesn't make sense. It's all for the TV show. He can't look like he's got empty pockets. He's got to look like he's got, he's got some pockets that are stuffed with tools and money and candy and all sorts, whatever. You just see the pockets are full instead of walking around with your pockets empty outside of your pants. Because if you don't have any leads, you don't have any information, you don't have anything to go off of, that's what you are. You're walking around with your pockets emptied outside of your pants, and everybody sees that there's nothing. But you can't have that for desert law. You can't. You gotta make it seem like you always got something. I hate the fact that this is happening to a family and they're using a victim to do this crap. It's so messed up. Just like what he's going to say about Ashley Banfield here in a moment, It's so sad.
Officials have also disclosed they are examining the possibility of an accomplice and continuing to analyze DNA evidence, including blood discovered on the exterior porch that matches Guthrie's profile. Now, the family has maintained public silence on the investigation details while expressing profound concern. And in an Instagram video posted February 24th, Savannah Guthrie noted that she and her siblings continue to fear for their mother's safety while deeply missing her presence. To aid in their effort, the FBI initially offered $100,000 as a reward for information leading to Guthrie's recovery or the arrest of those responsible. The family has since increased the total reward to $1 million and contributed an additional $500,000 to the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children. No arrests have been made, and the investigation is obviously active. But we also have some more information, because we got it all. Now, during an interview on the Megyn Kelly show, former SWAT team leader Chad Ayers stated that Nancy's daughter, Today Show host Savannah Guthrie, along with Savannah's siblings and brother-in-law, passed a polygraph test with flying colors. Now, he said he could also report that it has been confirmed this morning, I'm sure they will assume this, that every family member passed the polygraphs with flying colors, said Mr. Ayers.
Flying colors.
Think about, ladies and gentlemen. So all those people out there that were spreading rumors, well, like I said, it's dangerous. You can't be saying false things about people. You can't accuse them of crimes that they didn't commit, that they haven't been convicted of. I don't care how famous you think they are. You don't have First Amendment protection when you know it's false and you engage in reckless disregard for the truth. It's that simple. And I really don't care if you are think you are the press. Okay, you don't get carte blanche pass because you think you are in the press and that you can somehow say anything you want. No, if anything, if you're going to hold yourself out as the press, you need to do it better and cleaner than everybody else. And don't worry about getting it first. How about worry about getting it correct? Next, why are we letting these sickos?
Right, worry about getting it correct. Now, when it comes to Sheriff Nanos and him having a theory, it's targeted, I want to hear what Megyn Kelly and her panel has to say. Jim Fitzgerald, he's a regular guest on Megyn Kelly. I like this guy a lot. And then also, Megyn has Maureen O'Connell. Now, Maureen O'Connell has been on a lot. Brian Enton, if you guys remember, while we were doing our true crime online pool hall shows, we listened to a few of the Brian Enton episodes that had Maureen on there. I like her a lot. I think she, I hope that they have her on with a lot of these different cases because I really like her approach. It's quick to the point, no BS, and she makes a lot of sense with whatever she's discussing. So we're going to listen to what they have to say about this theory because I don't even know how you can come up with these theories. Could they be possible? Of course they could. Could they not be? Of course they could not be. Like, what? Because you got new photos that show people in the backyard. Now all of a sudden, you know it's targeted, and you're gonna find her soon. I mean, she just went solo. Oh, well, here's the thing, Jay Gallagher. She's been reporting like this for the last 4 years. Well, I'd say about 3.5. So before the Idaho 4 case, there wasn't that much. What's a good word to it's because YouTube has taken over mainstream media. That's why. And it started with the Idaho 4 case. Well, Gabby Petito, then Idaho 4. But she didn't do a lot of that reckless reporting with the Gabby Petito stuff. Not very much. When Idaho 4, that crime took place, that's when there was a lot of stuff that was being reported, sources close to the investigation, a lot of stuff that was being reported, a lot of stuff that was defamatory towards the suspect, and a lot of stuff that was not true. A lot of stuff that was not true. A lot of huge stuff that was not true in the Idaho 4 case. And a lot of stuff we didn't even know that wasn't true for sure until court documents were released, and then we saw this is not even the truth. It's not even close to the truth. It was meant to create clicks. And so, you live by the gun, you die by the gun, If you live and you go about it a certain way, well, you have to, it's part of the game. It's part of the game. If you're going to report like that, then it's part of the game that one of those times that you make some hellacious report and eventually people just get tired of it, because it's like, that's why I quit watching, in the beginning of my show when I first started it in 2022. News Nation was about the only mainstream media news source that I respected. And then as the Idaho 4 case progressed, we knew the facts about the Idaho 4 case. And when a lot of that stuff was being reported, it was like, whoa, hold on a minute. What? Like, how is this? But, we had to wait for court documents to find out if most of it was true or not. Even though it didn't sound like it was true. You don't know for sure. We weren't there. But once the documents came out, well, then it was like, ooh, yeah, this is... I mean, this is this is the one that I keep referring to. She literally said the suspect had a victim's photo ID in their shoebox in a closet when their home got searched in PA. Farthest from the truth. That there was nothing of those victims that even tied to him. Nothing. Not DNA, not social media activity, nothing. Nothing. And do you know how much damage that created? Again, you got Pima County coming out saying the family passed the polygraphs with flying colors. So, what if Tommaso didn't do anything? And what if Tommaso was your family member and you saw your family member getting bashed and venom and accused and all of these other things? For what? Because the sheriff messed up the investigation? Because the sheriff was the one who opened up and shut down the crime scene multiple times and allowed contamination from the get-go? How about we blame the sheriff and not Tommaso? Because the sheriff's the one that effed us up. They did. So let's hear about this new theory and let's hear what Megyn Kelly's panel has to say about it. I love great panel too. I can't wait. Check this out.
We're talking about the sheriff. So he's changed his messaging again on whether there's a threat to the community in a way that...
Did you see her shake her head? Watch her shake her head. Watch Maureen shake her head when Kelly says that. Or
so
Megyn.
He's changed his messaging again on whether there's a threat to the community in a way that I would argue seems to undermine that this is a stalker, that this is an NBC News stalker or family member. Just to take you back through...
Okay, it didn't rewind it. Hold on.
We're talking about the sheriff. So he's changed his messaging again on whether there's a threat to the community in a way that I would argue seems to undermine that this is a stalker, that this is an NBC News.
She's like, oh my gosh, we got to talk about Nanos again. Oh, I can't wait to hear what she has to say. She's going to light it up, baby.
Stalker or family member. Just to take you back through it, at the beginning of the investigation, the sheriff said this about whether there was a public safety threat. SOT 21.
With this being an active crime scene, is there any threat to the general public?
Trying to figure out my point.
Well, no, I don't think there's an active threat, but I hate to say that because, we're going to canvass that neighborhood and maybe there's a prowler been seen around. There's a lot of work still to do. We don't have any indication that that the public is in danger.
You're not sure if it's targeted. Why do you believe there's no wider threat to the public?
Well, we have crime in Tucson all the time, right? Like any city.
Doesn't that sound like Idaho 4? It was targeted, but the public has nothing to worry about? That sounds exactly like Idaho 4. Public doesn't have anything. Really? I was saying that that's a good thing that the people were out there hanging around, because that meant that the people that were going, that went to this neighborhood, they're not going to come joyriding through. Maybe they did just to, because they do like to visit the crime scene. But isn't that crazy though? Right, Caddy? Isn't that crazy? Targeted, but the public doesn't have anything. Man, that's I just how can investigators say that? Like, you have no idea, but the community's safe. I was sitting here having deja vu. I know, right?
There's a lot of work still to do. We
Right.
don't have any indication.
It sounds just like Chief Fry with the clip-on tie.
Trying to figure out my point.
Well, no, I don't think there's an active threat, but I hate to say that because, we're going to canvass that neighborhood and maybe there's a prowler been seen around. There's a
We're gonna
lot of work
canvass
still to
that
do.
neighborhood?
We don't have any indication that that the public is in danger.
You're not sure if it's targeted. Why do you believe there's no wider threat to the public?
Well, we have crime in Tucson all the time, right? Like any city. And so when you say a threat to the public, is there somebody out there who's kidnapping elderly people in the middle of the night every night? We've not heard that. We don't believe that's the case.
No threat to the public. Now,
So, oh man. Is there a bunch of old people getting kidnapped in the middle of the night? No. So it's not going to be a threat. You don't even know, like, you got Bobby, Sebastian neighbor Bobby is now Nancy neighbor. What's her name? I don't even know what her name is. Like, Laura for the Nancy case. Talking about what why was it what was targeted? What, you don't even know what was targeted, but yet it was targeted, and the community's safe because it's not like Tucson has a problem of a bunch of old ladies getting abducted. That's the weirdest shit I ever heard.
here he is in an
That's the
interview
weirdest
with
shit I've
NBC
ever
News
heard.
just this past Friday. SOT
Yeah.
22.
Do you think that this suspect could strike again, whoever did this?
Well, absolutely. We believe we know why he did this, and we believe that it was targeted, but we're not 100% sure of that. And so it'd be silly to tell people, yeah, don't worry about it. You're not his target. Don't think for a minute that because it happened to the Guthrie family, you're safe. No, keep your wits about you.
I love this reaction. I love this reaction. You got him, he's like, you got her, she's just like, ugh. I love it. I love it. I got to see
Family,
that.
you're safe. No, keep your wits about you.
Oh.
What, Maureen?
Well, I think what he's trying to say is, the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. So if someone is predisposed to doing this type of crime, they may do it again. But the statistics, as he also said, don't support serial offender or people pulling 84-year-old ladies out of their bed. It just happens so rarely. I kind of just stopped listening to him a while ago because he should have hired his PIO. His PIO should have been the person delivering a clear and concise message. They should have been working with the FBI's PIO, and it should have just been delivered regularly in an organized fashion.
She's trying to be respectful. Let's be honest. She is trying to be respectful, and shout out to her because there's so many times she was like almost said what she wanted to say and then stopped herself and then kind of went in this direction a few times just in that response. I quit listening to him a long time ago. So did I, Maureen.
Back and forth.
It's pretty diametrically opposed to say at the beginning there is no public safety threat, and then now,
Right.
44 days in, to say, don't think for a minute that you're safe.
As long
And
as
then he
you're
also
under
adds,
70.
Vince, we believe we know why she was taken. It was targeted. So what is he trying to tell us here?
Well, he's covering his ass.
Yes.
CYA, to be blunt there at the end.
There
With
you
those
go,
other
buddy.
Statements. He wants to make sure if anything
you
by
go.
chance
Yeah.
does happen,
I love this. I told you, I love this guy. He's awesome. I love this panel right here. I love Megan, Maureen, Jim. I love them. They're awesome.
Again, something similar, even in some other part of the country,
He just
that can
covered his
somehow
ass.
be linked to this. He doesn't want to be the one that they quote, at least his last quote, that, well, it could never happen anywhere. She was specifically targeted. This is not going to happen in Tucson or elsewhere. So I think he's obviously talked to other people and maybe said, all right, you may want to lighten that up a little bit there. You may have gone a little bit overboard in the beginning. I mean, obviously, it's been 44 days. And as far as we know, there have been no other abductions such as this one. But I think he just wanted to make sure he's kind of buttering his bread on both sides there. And he's covered.
I mean,
if something
saying
bad
though
does
explicitly, we believe.
See, you've been hearing it this whole time at this show. You've been hearing it the whole time. You're not going to hear all this clickbait BS. I'm going to tell you how it is. And that's how it is. This guy is so funny. The faces that he makes. It's so, he's so awesome.
We know why she was targeted is new.
Well, that's a little. Yeah, I was just
That
say
was
that's a little bit different. And that comes out, and then that, we've said all along when we were together, Megan with Maureen and others, that the investigators know a lot more than we do, and for him to say early on, at least, that they know why she was targeted, that means they have motivation listed, and if they think it was kidnapping earlier for profit, that seems to have been put, off the shelf there. So I would like to hear more about why the person was targeted,
right.
or why Mrs. Guthrie was targeted. But they're keeping that close to the vest, obviously.
To your point, Maureen.
Yeah, he's got to keep that country crack spread, hidden in his fridge, in the evidence cooler. He doesn't want that country crock being released to the public. That butter that goes on his bread, he doesn't want people to see that. That's all it is. The confetti that's thrown up in the air so you go, oh, look at that. So you're not looking back at the botched investigation.
You have to take everything the sheriff says with a grain of salt. But if that's true, that's huge. That's actually a huge development.
It is huge. And it tells us just what Fitz just said. And we all know.
They know.
Those investigators know so much more than we do. And they're on to something. They're on to something big. They just may be having a hard time proving it. But if you look at the Corey Richins case, that took over, a year and several months before she got arrested, before they were able to really build a case. And building a case is like building a cage. You're doing it link by link by link. And, you have to have a certain sense of confidence. And for him to say, no one's really safe, he may just be safe.
Busby, kiss my ass, man. I use it. I call it butter. I use it as butter, so it's butter to me. Whatever, Busby. You and your politically correct ass over there.
Saying, hey, we're not, we know what the motive is, but we don't know who you are. To give the offender a sense of security or something where he doesn't feel like he's in that cage yet because they want him to trip up. I've always had the feeling since the beginning that they're trying to get him to trip up, and they.
What's up, bro? What's up, bro? Good to see you, bro. Good to see you, buddy. Busby Ballbuster, right? Oh, Rosie said, you know what? Forget you all. Forget you. I call it butter. All right. Hey, can I get butter on my grilled cheese? Sure. Just grab the country crock out of the fridge. All right. All right. All right.
They, as far as we know, haven't been able to, but we
Shout
don't
out,
know
brother.
everything they
Shout
know.
out, brother.
They could have another legitimate ransom note for all we know. And if it went straight to the FBI, we wouldn't know about it.
Okay. I got it. When has Ahmad ever been timed out? I don't think I've ever timed out Ahmad. Can you time out Ahmad? Does anybody know? Because I'm about to time out Busby's ass. I'm about to time him out. Man, now you're breaking it down to vegetable oil. What do you got next for us, Busby? Yes, prayers, Trey. We got to have you guys on again.
And we don't know whether his statements suggesting they didn't find anything from the DNA and the backpack investigation didn't go anywhere is true. We don't know whether any of those statements to us are true. He has no obligation to tell us the truth. And they often use the media for subterfuge around what the suspect may be hearing. So everything's got that huge grain of salt. Huge. It's the huge coarse sea salt grain of salt, not the tiny table salt that you get at the deli. Think about this. In 2006, $20,000 equaled roughly 33 ounces of gold at spot.
Oh, all right. Okay. So we're going to skip that. All right. What I'm going to go to next is when it comes to the blood stain. So same panel, but there's also a blood analysis expert that is on the panel with the people that we just watched. Okay. So we're going to watch this. I showed you guys the photo a little bit ago, about the blood splatter. I told you guys back then when the photo was released, I told you guys back then, it is somebody that had to be dripping blood from the nosebleed, nose break. Also, somebody that was spitting blood out of their mouth downward to the ground based off of that blood splatter. So we're going to listen to the same panel and a blood analysis expert, and we're going to hear what they have to say. And after that, we're going to check out Nancy Grace's episode because they said some very interesting things on there today too. And we're going to check that out. Please hit the like if you have not, subscribe if you're not, and share this out to your socials and friends. We're still trying to get back in that algorithm.
When you see those blood droplets outside of Nancy's front door.
Well, thanks for having me. The blood outside, I think, is really concerning because to me, assuming that Miss Guthrie is moving at, somewhat of a walking pace, these blood stains show that she's bleeding pretty quickly. What type of injury is it? I don't think we can tell from the stains. They look like drip stains to me, and those small dots of blood are what we would call satellite spatter. That happens when blood falls from a certain height onto a target surface like this. So what I can tell is that the blood is falling from a height probably more than 2 feet, whether that's from her hand, her arm, her face. I don't think we can tell. But
It's a blood.
An indication.
I've seen plenty of nosebleeds, especially we're in the middle of a basketball game. Somebody gets hit, their nose is bleeding. You see the drips. You see it's the same. I don't know why. I'm surprised she's not saying it because it's the same consistency of a nosebleed, but
that she is bleeding very quickly. There's so much blood out there that if you were walking, I don't think you would see that distribution of blood with a slower bleed. You can see there are multiple drip stains.
Yeah, not
in
your
that
arm.
area. So unless she's standing,
It's not your arm. It's not your leg. It's not your ear. It's your nose. And then you got the blood going from your nose that's coming to the back of your throat that's then getting in your mouth, so you're going to spit it out too. I honestly feel like like I said back then, I feel like she was pistol whipped. That's why you see that.
they're stationary for a period of time, which of course is possible, although I think unlikely in an abduction. I think it shows that she really is.
Yeah, they should
bleeding
have.
pretty badly.
They should have taken
Does
the
that
doormat.
suggest to you that she had any particular kind of wound?
I don't think we can say, and I think it's important to be conservative. I don't want to go out on a limb, and certainly I don't want to speculate on, the severity of the injury, other than to say I think it's fair to assume that there's some sort of quickly bleeding source.
Right. Another reason why I said that the people that committed this crime, they obviously weren't prepared to show up to the crime, because you got dude showing up on the camera. His face is all up on the camera. You weren't prepared to show up to the crime. I really highly doubt you're going to be prepared to deal with somebody that has blood loss, quick amounts of blood loss, and you not being able to stop it. We've heard the health problems that Nancy had. That spells disaster when you have that kind of blood loss. They tested that blood. It came back confirmed as Nancy's. I don't see how somebody is going to be prepared to handle that inside of a vehicle if they took her. That's why I said people from day one needed to be doing grid ground searches 0.5 to 1 mile all the way around, because I don't think she made it that far. I really don't. And I hate to say it, but the way that it looks, 7 to 10 years from now, we're going to hear reports coming out of Tucson that they found a femur bone and they're doing tests to see if it comes back to anybody. And then, boom, they found a femur bone of Nancy 0.6 miles from her home. I hate to say it, but that's what it seems like. And that's what it seemed like for the last few weeks, a month.
Could be
Or
just a tear to the skin on her arm. She's an elderly woman. You can see
That's
even
a
in
lot
some
of
of
blood.
her older media appearances that she has kind of a typical thin-skinned appearance that people tend to get when they're older. So if there's some sort of struggle and her skin rips, that could cause it. If she receives some sort of blunt force trauma to the face, she gets hit in the face, that could cause it. We often see blood dripping like this from a bleeding nose, but it really could be anything.
Can you rule anything out? Because it is a little odd that there's so many perfect droplets.
I don't know that we can rule
Nosebleed.
anything out, but I do have some suspicion that perhaps she received this injury outside. And the reason I say that is because when I look at the video, I really don't see any blood in the area of the door. There's not any blood staining on the threshold. There's not any blood staining, or doesn't appear to be any blood staining on the door itself, which makes me wonder if she's already outside past that threshold when she receives this injury. And if it's outside, I know it's a fairly secluded area, but nobody heard anything. So that's probably something more like a strike or, just a simple skin tear and not some sort of injury that's going to cause a very loud noise.
Why do you think that the blood droplets all appear to be intact? I'm just picturing like Nancy possibly walking, possibly with a bloody nose. And it seems to me, especially with an elderly woman, that blood would fall and then you'd likely step in it and possibly even drag your foot. A lot of elderly people shuffle for stability's sake.
Well, I do think that there are some stains that look a little bit strange. They're irregular in shape, which could be transfer stains from something like, the blood on the bottom of her feet. But you're only going to step in that blood if you're standing in that area. And if you're getting pulled or dragged away and you're moving pretty quickly, or you're being carried away, you're not going to be leaving those types of stains. You're not going to be stepping in that blood if you're moving away very quickly. There's just not an opportunity to do that.
So you can't tell whether she walked of her own volition or was carried?
I don't think I can. No, I mean, you can see that there are some unusual looking stains there, but I don't think it's enough to determine if it's from a foot, from a shoe. Also, I think it's important to understand that this is after the crime scene has been released, and we know that there was at least some sampling taken of these bloodstains from crime scene responders, so they could have caused some alteration to the way these stains look by taking their swabs. You can see that parts of those bloodstains are missing. The center of some of those bloodstains are starting to flake away. Some of that could have been removed by crime scene responders as they're taking samples.
This may go back to the question you already answered about what you can't rule anything out necessarily, but not having been to any murder crime scenes, can you say that this was not, for example, a gunshot or like a stabbing wound, because those would have produced a lot more blood? I've heard some say this to me looks like a nosebleed where you get a fair amount of blood, but it falls pretty straightforward, straight down, as opposed to, forgive the term, but like a real gusher of a wound.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like the type of blood staining that you would get from a very serious injury, like a gunshot. We typically expect to see much smaller stains associated with a gunshot. And then once you are bleeding from a serious injury, we do tend to see a lot more blood. There are so many variables that can affect this. You know, people oftentimes just bleed internally. And certainly I've worked shooting homicides where there's almost no blood on scene, but it doesn't look to me like it's associated with something like a gunshot. There's patterns that I would expect to see in a gunshot case that I don't see here, but we don't know what the inside of the house looks like.
Maureen and Fitz, do you guys have any questions you want to ask Amy?
I do. Two things, Amy. First, you think that these blood stains are consistent with someone moving quickly across the porch?
Well, I think the blood source is bleeding quickly because you can see all of these drips, right? So if you're standing on this porch for a minute, you can be bleeding slowly, drip, drip, drip. But that's probably not the situation. You probably aren't hanging out having a conversation out here at 2:30 in the morning in the middle of an abduction. If you're trying to take Mrs. Guthrie away from the house, you're trying to get out of there. So if she is being pulled or she is walking, then what we see is that much faster drip, 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 a much more serious injury, because there are quite a lot of stains there. Even down the sidewalk, you can see those stains are pretty close to each other. So however she is bleeding, it's replenishing quite quickly. But again, she's a lady of a certain age.
Right.
And they do tend to bleed, you know, that happens.
And secondly, certainly the investigators have a much better idea as to where the blood came from, because if it came from her nose, there would be all kinds of residue in there. If it came from her mouth, there'd be all kinds of saliva. Right. So they would be able to rule some things out, and they probably have a much better understanding of where, in fact, this blood came from.
Yeah,
right?
I would hope that
They already tested
there was
it.
some serological testing that was done. We know that there was DNA analysis, and we know that this is Nancy.
What did I miss? Because I thought the blood was confirmed to be Nancy's like a month and a half ago. It was like just a couple days after it happened. Was it not confirmed to be? I mean, I don't know how many times I heard the blood was tested from the sidewalk and it confirmed to be Nancy's. So I'm a little confused here because this was just today. Yeah, 7 hours ago. So who don't know the case, us or them? Because somebody doesn't know what the hell we're talking about here. Little confused. Little confused there.
The bleed, you know, that happens.
And secondly, certainly the investigators have a much better idea as to where the blood came from, because if it came from her nose,
So you can test blood and find out what body part it came from? I didn't know that. I'm so confused right now.
there would be all kinds of residue in there. If it came from her mouth, there'd be all kinds of saliva, right?
Okay, when you let's look at this. Let's look at this photo again, right? Okay, let's look at this photo again. Okay. So we're gonna go back to that photo. Okay, we're gonna look at this photo. Yeah. What other than somebody spitting blood out is going to make these little teeny droplets all over the place? Somebody spitting blood out of their mouth? it's pretty obvious that they spit it out of their mouth. You got the mouth is by the nose. You got the droplets of blood by where the mouth spit out blood. Nosebleed, spitting out of the mouth. Yeah, it's not like, it's obviously not a gun wound. What happened? Because here a minute ago, it was like, damn, now I'm sitting here going, what are we, what? Huh? What? Let's try this again. All right, let's go back to this. I'm so confused. What?
So they would be able to rule some things out, and they probably have a much better understanding of where, in fact, this blood came from.
Yeah,
right?
I would hope that there was some serological testing that was done. We know that there was DNA analysis, and we know that this is Nancy Guthrie's blood, but we can do serological testing to determine if there is saliva present in these stains. I don't see any indication that there would be, but we can certainly.
What picture? No indication. Okay, I've looked at a lot of blood. I'm not an expert like this lady. I have a coffee light hanging up on my wall. I got a degree in coffee. But I have looked at a lot of blood splatter, and that is, I'm sorry, I don't know how you can confuse that blood splatter with anything other than it being spit out of your mouth. I don't know. I've never seen any kind of other blood splatter ever in my life. I've never seen any blood splatter that looks like that. That didn't come out of the mouth. So I'm really shocked that this expert, I'm so confused. Did I fall asleep in my chair? Am I sleeping? Am I dreaming? Like, what the hell's going on? I was tired when I came home from work, and I did want to take a nap, but I didn't think I fell asleep. Has anybody seen that has anybody seen this that wasn't coming from the mouth? And I'm talking this stuff, not these big drops that came from the nose, and not these clotted little sections that was the body trying to stop the bleeding with little clots, and it wasn't able to do it because they weren't able to clot good enough because of the medication. And so you got little chunks of clot flying out too. I'm talking about this splatter that goes all the way out here. Like, what? I don't understand. I've never seen any other blood splatter that looks like this that didn't come from the mouth when it was spitting blood out. I don't know what that lady's talking about. This is wild. I'm glad we're checking this out.
Test
Rocky
for
IV.
that in a laboratory setting.
That's interesting. I didn't know that. Maybe you could figure out what part of the body it may have come from. Go ahead, Fitz.
Amy, I've been asked this question a few times over the last month. The bleeding seems, or I should say the blood stains seems to have stopped at a certain point. And the best I could speculate is either direct pressure was put on whatever the wound was by perhaps Nancy herself or the abductor, or perhaps in whatever condition she was, the abductor picked her up. I know she's about 140 pounds. I guess, a fit guy could carry someone, and perhaps the blood just, kind of dripped down on whatever she was wearing.
Whoa. No, I haven't seen this video before. They literally led her out the front door. Whose video is this? Because I've seen Brian Enton's video. This isn't Brian Enton's video. I've never seen this. This literally has drops coming out.
Fit guy could carry someone, and perhaps the blood just, kind of.
Yeah, you got blood drops. They literally walked her out the front door, the front sidewalk.
Picked her up.
So that means the car was parked out front. The car was literally parked out front in the driveway. That's why they took the camera. Because you ain't taking them out you ain't taking her out the back. You have too many obstacles while trying to make sure that she can't escape or make noise or. Wow.
She's about 140 pounds. I guess,
literally straight out the front.
Someone, and perhaps the blood just, kind of dripped down on whatever she was wearing at that time. But you're the expert here. Do you have any potential hypothesis as to why the blood drops stopped at a certain point?
Well, the first thing that I think when we have something like this, a trail of drip stains, and then they stop, is that person got into a car.
Right.
That's the most obvious answer that kind of occurs to me. But you're right. If there's some sort of pressure applied, even by Nancy Guthrie herself, that's going to lessen the amount of blood, which I think would suggest that she's able to at least tend to her wounds, maybe, just able to put her hand over wherever is bleeding, or maybe able to move her clothing around to cover so that the blood is being absorbed into her clothing and not dripping onto the concrete anymore. But I think we really just don't know. Those are answers that we just don't have right now. I'd like to know what the rest of the driveway looked like at the beginning of crime scene processing. It's interesting to me that there was this much blood that was left outside after the crime scene was released. That's probably not a choice that I would have made if I was managing this crime scene.
Uh-oh, what happened?
But since we do know that crime scene responders were there before these images were taken, it's possible that there's more blood that was already collected and we just don't see it.
Huh. Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of weird. I don't know what to think of that. That's I don't know. I'm a little confused. I'm still curious if Sheriff Nanos is if they're gonna get those 120,000 signatures. I don't think so. Brian Enton tried to tell us there's a See, I don't even remember Brian Enton saying that. And he didn't even take it. So his video was just at the front. It showed him walking up, and then it showed the blood at the front. And that's all it showed. So I'm surprised. I'm surprised that he didn't take a video, or maybe I just didn't see it, but I'm remembering because Brian Enton, when he first came out there, his first day, he went out there and he took that video, and that's the video that I was first introduced to the blood at the front. And yeah, some way, all in all, still no idea who did this. Yeah. But Sheriff, he knows. He knows. Now, Nancy, listen, they say a lot of interesting stuff in this episode, especially her guest that drives me. He just annoys the hell out of me. He says some interesting stuff that he heard investigators say that hasn't been out. So we'll check this out. Nancy is also going to talk about Savannah being a little upset, you know. Now, there's a difference between Nancy and Ashley. Nancy, she does get a little crazy from time to time. But she's not doing this reckless ass report and stuff that's been going on out there. We're going to check out Nancy Grace. This was her episode from just a few hours ago. And if you haven't seen it or heard it yet, you're definitely going to want to, because they say some very interesting things in this one. Check this out.
His mother, Nancy Guthrie, missing day 45. This, as we learn of reports that the Guthrie family passed polygraphs with flying colors. Not only that, 2 days emerging, January 11 and January 24. They're significant, but why? Also,
why?
New images. You predicted there would be more images from Nancy's home. Now we're learning they're of the pool area. And Nanos said,
how about the audio? We've been predicting the damn audio this whole time. Where is the audio of the suspect's voice from the Nest camera? It's there. You have it. Why isn't it out? Don't make people like they did for Delphi. Don't make them wait years to hear Down the Hill. Don't make them wait that long. Put out the voice. His mama is going to know that's her baby. She already kind of knows, looking at his eyes, looking at his mouth, looking at how he's standing. She already has an idea. She just doesn't have that 100% confirmation. The voice would do that. The voice could do that, which then leads to you getting a real lead. And then you can find out who did this. You can find out what happened to Nancy and hopefully reunite her with her family, whichever avenue that is.
oh, they're irrelevant. Really? Then why did we see aerial footage of the FBI combing the pool area and even taking pictures? Good evening. I'm Nancy Grace. This is Crime Stories. I want to thank you for being with us. Straight out to Crime Stories investigative reporter Dave Mack. We are now learning of reports the Guthrie family, each one, including Savannah, including Annie Guthrie, her sister, including the brother-in-law, much maligned, have passed polygraphs. What do you know?
Nancy, what we know right now is a former SWAT commander with a source inside Pima County Sheriff's Office says that the Guthrie family, the children and their spouses, were all polygraphed and passed the polygraph test with flying colors.
Wow. Dave Mack, thank you for that. I want to go out to a special guest joining us right now. It's George Olivo. He is a certified polygrapher. He is former FBI, and you may have actually seen him over at our friends at A&E because he is the polygrapher that polygraphed the Casey Anthony family. Now, there's George Anthony getting polygraphed. Remember, his daughter, Tot Mom Casey Anthony, accused him of wrongdoing, of all sorts of crimes in the Tot Mom murder case of her daughter, Kelly Anthony. George Olivo is the one that performed all the polygraphs for A&E's Casey Anthony, the parents' lie detector test. And then you went on to create another A&E program. What was the name of it, George?
That was called a lie detector, truth or deception. That was a series that was patterned after the Casey Anthony show.
Mm-hmm. I can't believe people are dumb enough to hook themselves up to one of your polys, George Olivo. George Olivo is based in LA, and as I said, former FBI. Now, before everybody starts screaming, they're not allowed in court. Polygraphs are allowed in court. They are routinely allowed without a problem in civil cases, and they are allowed in criminal cases if they are stipulated or agreed upon before the poly. Both sides have to say in writing, yes, we'll allow the poly in the criminal case. We agree, and then you perform the poly before you know the outcome. How does it work? Break it down for people that have never been present or never conducted or subjected to a polygraph.
Sure, Nancy. Well, the polygraph there's nothing on the screen that shows up and says you're lying or you're telling the truth. Really, if you really want to look at it more than people calling it a lie detector test, it's really more of a stress detector test. And so we're looking at physiology, and at the end of the day, when we say someone passed, what we're saying is that they had no significant response to the relevant questions. And so we're inferring that because of that they're telling the truth. Now, when there's a significant response, then we say that there's a reason for that. The reactions don't happen in a vacuum. So when they react repeatedly over and over to the same question, because there's redundancy built into the protocol, when they keep reacting to the same question, then we infer that there's deception indicated there.
So have you ever visibly seen them react, George Olivo? Like, do they start sweating? Do they glance around nervously? Do they twitch? Do they get a nervous tick?
Everybody does
Can you
different
actually
things.
see them reacting?
Of course you can. Everybody does different things. Like, each person will do, yes, the generalized population is going to do certain things, this and this and this, but it's just like a fingerprint. Everybody's different. What you will notice is the consistencies of why they even made the lie detector a lie detector in the first place. It measures the changes in your blood pressure, your heartbeat, all of these different things that your body can't lie. Now, some people are narcissistic and pathological, and they can do all these things where is it 100% perfect? No. People can get by it. But for the most part, it's why they're used so much in investigations, because it does measure those things. I don't know why she's asking that question. She knows.
When your poly is going zzz.
Well, no, not really, because if a person is twitching or moving or even sighing or breathing too heavily, if the physiology is not acceptable, then what most people don't realize, Nancy, is that the trump card that we always have in polygraph, when people say, well, what if they cheat? What if they try to cheat? If the physiology does not look natural and normal, if it looks in any way controlled or manufactured in some way, that they're trying to do something on the test, then the examiner, no matter what the score is numerically, the examiner has sole discretion to say, I'm not going to accept this test. And it happened to me not just recently, where someone numerically passed the test, but I said, no, I'm not going to accept it. So the final result in that case, we call it a no opinion test. We can redo the test, but we're not going to pass someone if the physiology is suspicious.
George Olivo, I'm curious, why, and there's Cameron, the brother Cameron right there. Why did you refuse to pass on that poly? What happened during it?
Well, the physiology was outside of what we call normal range, so it was atypical physiology. It's kind of like, Nancy, if you have a counterfeit $100 bill, and you go into the bank to the manager of the bank and you ask them to give you change for that $100 bill, they're going to look at it, they're going to scrutinize it, hold it up to the light, and they may not know the exact counterfeit technique that was used, but they know what the real bill is supposed to look like. And so I've been looking at physiology for 15 years. I know what's in normal limits within normal range. And if it doesn't look normal, now I won't get into exactly the diagnostic features I'm looking at, because then that's kind of telling people how to try to cheat on a test. But when it doesn't look normal, we can stop the test. We can give them a warning, which, you know, that's fair. Give someone a warning, because then there's a possibility they might not be doing it on purpose. It could be something due to a medical condition, but you can tell someone, look, you know, your physiology, you just got to sit still and breathe normally, and don't do anything to change the outcome of this test or to manipulate the test. And if it continues, then whether it's being done on purpose or not, doesn't matter. We don't have to accept the final numeric score.
Guys, the video we showed you of Savannah and sister Annie and Annie Guthrie's husband laying flowers at a makeshift honorarium. That's from our friends at Fox News. Back to George Olivo, LA polygrapher and the star of Casey Anthony's Parents, The Lie Detector Test, and more, former FBI. George, here's the big question. Everybody wants to know the answer to this. Can you cheat a poly?
That's a good question. If you can thread a needle in the dark, then I guess I would say yes. It's very difficult to do.
There you go.
You know, the law enforcement has been using polygraphs for decades, and you know this, Nancy. They're not going to rely on investigative tools that fail randomly. So we're not really worried about someone coming in and randomly cheating on a polygraph test. Most of the things people try to do that they find on the internet, try this or try that. Yeah, because I look at that all the time. I'm all the time looking at the internet asking. I type in all the time, how can I cheat on a polygraph test? I do it all the time to see what is being put out there. And basically everything I see, I'm thinking to myself, well, good, yeah, do that, because it's easy for me to spot that.
Guys, joining us, George Olivo, a renowned polygrapher, joining us out of the LA jurisdiction. So wouldn't you agree that it's SOP, standard operating procedure, George, for family members to be polyed?
I would agree with that, yes.
Yes, and spouses, yes.
Because statistically,
Last person to
that's who
see
you
him
look at
alive.
when somebody goes missing or is found dead. You look at family members. Statistically, someone close to the victim is responsible.
Hello.
But not true in every case. Now, let me ask you, you've been studying the Nancy Guthrie disappearance.
And statistically, more often than not, people who enter your property to take something have been there before as well. So if they were going there to commit a robbery of specific items, well then yeah. But the thing is they would know that for sure based off of the crime scene. Were certain things left behind? If they were left behind, well, then it's obvious it wasn't a robbery, even if it was staged, because sometimes people will stage crime scenes to make it look like a robbery. But even when you're going through the stuff and you're like, wait a minute, if they really were committing a robbery, they would have taken this. This is not something that they would leave behind. And they still don't know. So the only thing I can think of why they say it's targeted is because there were no signs of a robbery. We already discussed that, like the first week of the abduction taking place. What's up, River? Yeah, we discussed that, like, I don't know, over a month ago. Yeah, I'm not really into the clickbait stuff. We discussed it, but really there's I think we went through the Epstein stuff at the same time period back then. Yeah, it's just not something that's legitimate, so we just don't report on it and haven't. Thank you for joining, by the way.
If you polyed her family, what would you ask them? Let's just start with the brother-in-law. He seems to be the scapegoat, although a lot of people online, they look at the intruder, the porch guy who took Nancy Guthrie, and they're convinced it's Annie Guthrie, the woman, the sister. That's not Annie Guthrie, everybody. That's a man. That's a man. That said, what would you ask the son-in-law? Where would you start with that, George Olivo?
Well, that's a great question, because that's really going to, if you say someone passed the polygraph exam, the real question is, well, what did you ask the person? The relevant questions
That's
are
right.
so
What are the
important.
questions?
Exactly. What are the relevant questions? And of course, secondarily and equally important, who did the polygraph exam? So if the FBI did the exams, I'm very confident that they were done well and they were done correctly. Obviously, I'm going to think that. That's where I got my training. And I think the FBI's best in the world at polygraph. I don't have any doubt about that. But the questions have to be carefully constructed, because they can't be accusatory questions. They can't be inflammatory questions. And they have to be questions that don't have a loophole. Because the first thing we're thinking about when we're constructing a question for a polygraph is, what could the person possibly say if they fail this test to get out of it? If they, oh, well, I failed because it was Tuesday instead of Wednesday, or I failed because I didn't understand this. So you want to make sure that the question's nice and tight. One question I would not ask in this case is do you know who took Nancy? Because that is a kind of a rookie mistake. Because if I ask someone a question on a polygraph exam, and in this particular case, missing person, I say, do you know who took her? Which includes the person themselves, right? So I feel like I'm including that. And if they did it themselves, or they know who did it, then they would fail. And they fail the test. All they have to say is, well, everything on the news says X, Y, Z, or I had a dream the other night and I feel I know who did it. So you're back to square one. So that's a loophole, and it's a bad question. So in a case like this, I would ask. It's actually pretty similar to the case George Anthony.
They know
because there was a missing person in there, right? The little Kaylee. And I would ask in this case something like, did you deliberately cause Nancy's disappearance? Not are you responsible, because, even Savannah and, people that are truly grieving and are heartbroken, they may feel responsible. I could have done more. I should have called her. I should have done something. They may feel responsible. You don't want to ask, you feel responsible, but did you deliberately cause her disappearance?
Right.
Are you, and if it's something where you really do need to know if it's another person. In other words, secondary involvement. They didn't physically take her, but maybe they murder for hire, so they paid someone. You really do need to know if they are involved secondarily. I might ask something like, are you protecting the identity of the person who took Nancy? Something like that, which is very direct. And if you fail it, there's no there's no wiggle room in there. If you fail it, then you got to explain why you failed it, why you failed that test.
Hey, George Olivo, question. We're showing, guys, the video of Savannah and Sister Annie and her husband laying flowers at that honorarium is from our friends at Fox News. I was just watching George, Savannah crying. Now people are attacking her because she might go back to work. Can people that are very upset, very emotional.
Speaking of, when it comes to her work, I'd have to find the video, but this lady on Megyn Kelly spilled the beans about her work. She said the day that Nancy went missing, Savannah flew to Arizona. People on the Today Show were saying that that was very unprofessional of Nancy and how they should get her spot as a guest. So when you have multiple people at your job that are wanting to stab you in the back already, you go back there, just think of that. You guys saw the video when Savannah went back to the Today Show building and cast, and everybody was crying and giving her hugs and kisses. It'd be real interesting to find out who out of those fake ass people were the same people trying to get Savannah's job on the show. I would like to know, honestly, because I'd call their ass out how shitty of a human being they are, because they can't even like empathize with what Savannah was going through at that moment. It's a horrible. And then you show up in there. Oh boy, I'd be livid.
They can't stop crying. Can they take a poly?
No, I would say no. There's this unspoken rule, or not unspoken, rather unwritten rule. Some people call it the 24-hour rule. I don't know if it's 24 hours or 48. People grieve differently, but you should never polygraph, if you give someone a polygraph exam, immediately following a traumatic experience. So if she had just found out that her mother's missing and is in a huge panic, or even if someone just finished getting interrogated on a case, like say a bank robbery or murder, and they've been interrogated for 3 or 4 hours, and then you throw them in a polygraph chair right after that to take a polygraph exam because they keep denying it, that's not really a good idea either. The person should be more in a calm state. And who's to say how long that should be, if it should be 24 hours or 48 hours, but it shouldn't be somebody who is crying or sobbing or grieving. It's not going to give you a good result. Again, physiology is not going to be...
it's going to be all over the map.
Sure.
George, guys, George Olivo joining us from georgeolivo.com.
That's crazy, Giggle. I never, honestly, I kind of knew what the Today Show logo looked like. It's not something that I ever watched because I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not up watching TV at that time. And number two, it just seemed like a lot of fakeness going around. You know, you got the fake laughter and the fake fun and the fake. It just seemed like a lot of fake. And I don't know. It's just not one of those shows that I wake up and and I go, let me watch this. I don't know. There's plenty of other things to watch if I'm going to watch something that early. There was an embassy at Nancy's. Oh, really? Yeah. There's nothing going on. Yeah, so many fake people and friends, right? That's what, like, you know, to watch that video of her coworkers crying and kissing and hugging, and it's just like, man, are you the fake one? Are you the fake one? Are you the fake one? It's just messed up. Very messed up. Somebody's mother goes missing. They fly there to see if she's safe, and you know, that's a day later from last anybody had seen her, and I'd be freaked out too. You know, because she's not just going to get on a damn plane, but she's going to call other people and assess the situation. And if the situation is like, yeah, it's not, I don't know, then yeah, I'm going to hop on a damn plane. Damn straight. That's your mom. Hey, I mean, Giggle, I got to admit, Megyn Kelly took the better route, right? Megyn Kelly's been blowing up since she left Fox. Megyn Kelly's been blowing up. She's got MK True Crime channel. Like, she's blowing up. Megyn Kelly is blowing up. Nancy Guthrie, or Savannah, I didn't even really know her damn name until this happened. Had I seen her face before? Yeah, I seen her face at some point. Didn't know she was the host of the Today Show. Didn't even know her name. Didn't know her last name. Didn't know her first name. Megyn Kelly. I knew Megyn Kelly. I've watched Megyn Kelly for a few years now. even when she was at Fox, even when she was interviewing presidential candidates and all of that stuff. Never heard of Savannah. So, yeah, that's right. Same here. Like independent journalists, independent journalists. Yeah. At least it's hell. You can't even say verified anymore because these mainstreams don't even verify stuff most of the time either. So that used to be a thing. You had to have 3 sources. They all had to confirm it, and then you went on the air with it. That's how it used to be. Now on mainstream, you can just say whatever you want to say and put a little bow of sources close to the investigation on it. Hey, it's believable.
Former FBI polygrapher in LA. He learned polygraphs with the FBI. I can see it right now, George. I would be on a plea and arraignment calendar, maybe 150 new defendants a week. And I could see during plea negotiations a defense attorney coming down a long hallway in the courthouse as if they knew something. I'm like, okay, here it comes. He's got something. Sure enough, he has a polygraph. My client passed a polygraph. I'm like, okay. First, I'd say, who took the poly? Did you hire a private firm to take the poly? Is it somebody you use a lot? You paid them for the poly? Then they would have to tell me who administered the poly. Okay, I wouldn't like that because I would want law enforcement to administer it. And then I'd say, well, what were the questions? If you want me to pay any attention to your poly, I need to know what the questions. They would never want me to know the questions. The questions have to be very carefully devised. I've devised questions for polys and then been corrected rightly by you. The polygrapher would correct me and say, that's not a good question. That's not going to work. It's got to be a very direct question. So, for instance, I'm working up to it, George. Thank you for bearing with me. A lot of people have attacked the son-in-law, Nancy Guthrie's son-in-law, who is Annie Guthrie's husband, and Annie. So the questions have to be formulated. For instance, many people have stated the son-in-law is responsible. I reject that. Or one of his bandmates, he plays in a band or played in a band. One bandmate has had his life totally destroyed because of this.
Right? And because Ashley wants to come out and say that. And like I said back then, who's to say that dad doesn't feed his children with the money that he makes from the gigs? And now his whole life is uprooted. It's so messed up. And thank you so much, Suzanne. That's so sweet of you. Appreciate the hard work you put into your lives. Thank you so much. We're back here. I had to take a break again. We're back starting tonight. We're still going to do our true crime online pool hall shows that we've been doing here and there the last few weeks. But we're back with the regular shows, doing some of those true crime online pool things. Might do one tonight over at EvilleCJ TV. Not sure. I'll let you guys know how it goes. But yeah, thank you so much. I want to, and also contribution to Susan B as well. Thank you so much. Whoops, we're supposed to play this. All right, there we go. Thank you so much. That's very sweet of you. And thank you for the support and the kind words. Also, I wasn't able to do the live footage. I'm going to be going through all my boots on the ground footage from the last 4 years. We're going to be starting to go through that. You guys can help me organize it. So look for that starting this Saturday. We'll be doing one of those. Not sure if it's going to be morning or night because there's some other things that I have to get done on Saturday too. But at some point, either probably the evening is when we'll probably end up doing it. But look for that. That'll be coming. And also, we're going to be starting to discuss some of these other topics too. There's been a lot of stuff on Nancy, a lot of stuff to cover on Nancy. Really, over the last couple weeks, we've been kind of covering, whatever's been coming out, on these pool hall shows. And really, there's just, you would think that there would have been something, and each day, each week, there's something that might have a little hope, and then there's just nothing. And really, it's ending up just becoming a lot of speculation conversation, because when there is no facts, there's no leads, there's no information, there's no direction. All that leads and leaves is speculation. And there's a lot of other stuff going on that we could discuss too. We will be getting back into our Idaho 4 shows too, discussing more on Dr. Turvey and a lot of the stuff that's come out when it comes to DMs. How do I put this? I'll just say involvement, not necessarily in the crime itself, but somebody that wasn't being honest when it came to their version of events that day. So there's a lot of things to discuss on that too. So thank you again. I appreciate you. And it means everything when it comes to the support, not just the super chat, but also the kind words. It means a lot to me. Thank you so much.
That said, what question would you ask the brother? You've got the brother-in-law, because you've got to ask if he was involved or if someone he knows was involved. And what if he thinks, ooh, maybe the pool guy was involved? What if he's thinking maybe a grocery store delivery person was?
Apparently, they're looking into construction workers now. Hello? Day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. Day 45, getting very desperate. Construction workers, day 45. How about construction workers, day 5? Day 5.
Involved. Maybe a granny nanny's son was involved. That can really screw up your polygraph test. The question's got to be just right. How do you phrase it, George?
Exactly. So yes, you're.
All right, I'm gonna skip this polygraph stuff.
Dinner with you and your wife Annie the night before she disappeared. Did you drive her home that night? Did you see her go into her home through the garage door? Did you see the garage door close? Did you go directly home after that? If for any...
Okay. Hold on. Let's skip ahead here.
Or go online to americanfinancing.net/Nancy, and good luck. Also tonight, in addition to reports the Guthrie family passed polygraphs, new images from Nancy Guthrie's yard emerging. Dave Mack, Crime Stories investigative reporter, tell me about the images.
Well, the shocking part of this, Nancy, is that the images that we have now been told about show the time just prior to the alleged kidnapping and the time directly after it. When I say up to before, I mean the day before. And the time, it starts with, picks back up when police are on the scene at the investigation about 12:15. But Nancy, we're talking about the backyard, the swimming pool area, and the side of the house of Nancy Guthrie's house.
Dave Mack, when you're saying the side of the house around the pool area, I find that very, very interesting, because Nanos is saying this new video doesn't mean anything. But isn't there footage? Let's see that aerial footage, please, control room, of the FBI. This is from our friends at Fox News, combing through the side of the home, the entire pool area. And if you stay on,
they went through the whole place. They didn't just focus. They didn't just focus on the. Oh my God. Oh my God. And we're talking like day 40 here, day 35. Like, come on. Nancy.
You will see, I believe it's the first guy walking,
Nancy.
turn around and take photos around the gate. What about that, Dave Mack?
They took a lot
We're
of
talking
photos.
about the photos that were taken off from the house, from security cameras, thumbnail photos that were taken up to the day before the kidnapping occurred, and then picked
thumbnails. So imagine you scroll, you came across this thumbnail, right? When you first came across the thumbnail, it was probably what, that big? Not very big, 1.5 by inch. Not very big. 1.5 by an inch, 1.25 by an inch, 1.75 by 1.5, something like that. And then you're gonna try and zoom that up and try, like, talk about a needle in a haystack. They were told to look busy. Well, I don't know. I mean, maybe, but I honestly, no, they were there doing what they see. This is what, okay, so we're listening to Nancy. Nancy's telling us that they're focusing on key parts. How many videos, how many live streams, how much footage have we seen of investigators, different agencies showing up, going to the front of the house, inside the house, the back of the house? That's what they do. They wouldn't be doing their job if they didn't explore all the different areas. And do you think that these people that we're seeing on camera right now, do you think that they really thought, hey, we're going to come across a sock that's connected to the crime hidden in these bushes that came off from the criminal? Like, do you really think that they're... No. They've had so many different agencies, so many different investigators. You know why? Because they don't have any leads. They don't have any information. They want some fresh eyes to come in there and come up with different ideas or possibilities or theories or suggestions, because they have no clue. They weren't focused on a particular point. That's just what the video shows you. But I guarantee you, they went inside. Guarantee you. You seen them walk around. You see them go here, go through this gate. Yes, they're exploring different ideas. It's called investigating.
right back up with police during the investigation. But according to what we're being told, they don't have photos of the time in question when Nancy Guthrie was taken from the home. So they have it right up to that point and then right after, but not during.
I find that very curious. To Scott Eicher joining us, digital forensics expert, founding member of the FBI Cellular Analysis Survey Team, known as CAST. He is a historical cellular analysis expert, former FBI, 22 years, former homicide detective at Norfolk, Virginia PD, currently with Precision Cellular Analysis. Scott, isn't that quite the coinkydink that Nanos is saying, oh, don't look over here. This means nothing. First, he said, there is no video. We're never going to have video. Nancy Guthrie didn't have a subscription. Then, in a Herculean feat, a miracle, Google, out of trillions of data points, finds Nancy Guthrie's porch cam and finds the porch guy. Now we've got more images, thumbnails. Who's to say there's not more? And what about the coincidence that it's of the pool area and backyard? And Nanos is saying, that's nothing. But we see the FBI combing through the pool area and the backyard, even taking photos. Why? And why do the photos lead up to the moment she's kidnapped and then pick up after the moment she's kidnapped?
Well, if you remember back when
All right, we already know all this. It's because she didn't pay for a subscription. They had to go through the files. Google was able to find it. I mean, it's obvious. By the way, people, pay the $10. I'm not doing Signal Jammer either. I said it was a bunch of BS from back then, and it's a bunch of BS still. All right. No Signal Jammer.
And then, of course, Jan 31, the night that she's kidnapped, into the early morning hours of Feb 1, which was a weekend. It was a Saturday night going into Sunday morning. All three on weekends.
Yep. Each one.
What does that tell me? Somebody that worked during the week and could do this on weekends. Typically, that's what it tells you when someone only strikes on weekends.
What? Hold on. What is she saying? What? Only strikes on weekends. What?
We believe there was an accomplice.
Yeah, there
Did
is.
they?
They were in the back.
Did one of the accomplices
by the tree
come through the neighbor's yard?
By the tree.
Why do I care?
See them walking, going across?
Even though the video was jammed the night of, what about other nights? The FBI honing in on Jan 11 and Jan 24. Which, by the way, Dave Mack, correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't all of those on weekends? Jan 11, Jan 24, and then, of course, Jan 31, the night that she's kidnapped, into the early morning hours of Feb 1, which was a weekend. It was a Saturday night going into Sunday morning. All three on weekends.
Yep. Each one.
What does that tell me? Somebody that worked during the week and could do this on weekends. Typically, that's what it tells you when someone only strikes on weekends. Maybe not here, but typically that's what it tells you. Okay, hold on. Go with me, Dave Mack. All three on weekends, all three in the middle of the night. If they went through the neighbor's yard, what about the video? They didn't jam the video on Jan 11 and Jan 24. Can we get that? See where I'm going with this?
Yep. I do see where you're going. And, you know, that's why the FBI has been going in the neighborhood, Nancy, looking at Jan 11 and Jan 24. And in fact, one of the neighbors sat down with the FBI who watched their Nest or Ring doorbell video in the home. The FBI watched it with the homeowner as they scrolled through the video from these specific nights, not bothering to take it, just looking at it right then and there. So
Right.
they are focused on January 11th, January 24, and they are looking at all through this neighborhood for any scrap of evidence they can find. And I think the zeroing in on this is proven by some of the things we're already finding out. Some of the things we've seen there, we're showing the video that was taken the night around between 2:30 and 2:50 behind, about 2.5 miles behind Nancy Guthrie's home. Have the neighbor reporting the stranger in the neighborhood. Remember, that was around January 11th.
Well, you know what? Looking at this video, hold on. I don't want to lose a thought, Dave. I'll circle right back to you. Scott Eicher joining us, digital forensics expert. Again, Nano said at the get-go that car video, not so much. Well, it is. I wonder, and that video is from our friends at Fox News, by the way, Scott Eicher, if that same yard cam can be resurrected for Jan 11 and Jan 24, when we think the porch guy was in the neighborhood.
It would have already been resurrected. Let's go.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully we can finally put this to bed with regards to the Guthrie family. As we've said before, there were hundreds of investigators on this case, certainly many of them assigned to eliminate the possibility of a family connection here. The vehicle has been extensively searched and returned. Polygraphs have been done, and hopefully that narrative can be put to bed at this point.
Dave Mack, what can you tell me about Uber ride video? We've seen it in many, many cases. We've used it in many, many cases. I mean, who's to say it wasn't a Tesla that gets a 360-degree view?
What's up, Stone?
We don't know that, but what if? There are just a myriad of possibilities. Where's the Uber video? We know the Uber driver has been cleared.
Yes,
Okay.
the Uber
First of
driver-
all, let's just start at the beginning. Where does an Uber fit into this timeline? Let's just start with that.
Okay, Nancy Guthrie took an Uber from her home to Annie's home, to her daughter Annie's home for game night, having dinner and playing games. So that an Uber driver picked Nancy Guthrie up at her home at 5:32 p.m. She then took her directly to Annie's home, dropped her off, and went on about her merry way. I say her, I'm not sure if we're talking male or female right now about the Uber driver, but we do know that the earliest parts of this investigation, the sheriff's department detectives sat down with the Uber driver. The Uber driver gave the law enforcement videos from the car for the time in question and gave them every answer they could possibly want and was immediately cleared. Because remember, Nancy Guthrie took the Uber from her home to her daughter's home. She did not take an Uber from Annie's home back to her own home.
Okay, what about it, Scott Eicher? What benefit would there be in us seeing the Uber video?
Well, there's several different things. We're trying to make this timeline that we have concrete, right? Well, all of what the family has said when she was over at Annie's house, when she got home. So that's one piece of the timeline we can verify through the video of the from the Uber driver. Which also things you can see is how's Miss Guthrie dressed, right? Is she wearing the clothes that she was dropped off in according to the family? When she was kidnapped, were those clothes at the house that she was wearing earlier that day? We've used Uber videos, Lyft videos in many different cases to see things that are not intended. There's the people that are in the car. And then there's a camera facing forward towards the front of the car. And we pick up a ton of different information, license plates. What if someone was following Miss Guthrie that night and to make sure that she had left the house? Was there a video of that from the Uber driver of someone following the Uber vehicle to Annie's house?
Her Sundays had to be predictable. I mean, every Sunday she probably went to Annie's to play games, to watch church service online, whatever. It had to be an every Sunday thing. It would have been very easy. Listen, Mondays are different, Tuesdays are different, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays are different, maybe even Saturdays are different. But I can guarantee you that Sundays were probably the same every freaking weekend, and that's probably why the person or why they're looking at the specific dates that are on the weekends. Let's see the 24th, and let's see, the 24th is a Saturday, the 11th is a Sunday. So Sunday, Saturday, and then kidnapped Saturday night. So I wouldn't be, maybe they showed up on the 11th during the daytime. Is all pretty much the same. Their routine was the same, just like Nancy's was. It would have been very, very easy. I'm glad you're doing good, Stone. I did get your message on Discord. I apologize. I haven't been able to get back to you yet. I'm still trying to work myself out of all this crap that I was working on the last couple of weeks. I'm getting there. I don't know. Oh no! It got hacked. What the hell? Damn, that's wild.
I mean, there's a hundred possibilities. That's just throwing it into the weeds. But why not look at that video and make sure you've got every bit of piece of information you can from it.
Fitzgibbons, he's right. Brian Fitzgibbons, USPA Nationwide Security, because a lot of nights, my mom, who lives with me, will be getting her ready for bed, and she will just be too tired to change into her PJs. So she typically wears like a jogging outfit or a cute little velour jogging thing. And sometimes she'll say, I'm just too tired, I'll sleep in this. So I'd like to know just what Iker said. Was she wearing those clothes that are pictured in the Uber video? What was her demeanor? Did she look ill? Did she seem incoherent in any way? I don't know what I'm looking for. I don't know it till I see it. That's why I think the video should be released.
Why? So somebody saw Nancy after she walked in her door? Like, I don't understand how the clothes, like whatever clothes she was wearing in the Uber going to Annie's, she would have been wearing, and then who is supposed to be the witness? Who's supposed to be the witness of seeing Nancy after getting dropped off at home to then go back to the clothes? And are these clothes? I'm confused about that as well.
Absolutely. And I think at this point,
so according Jay Gallagher, according to investigators, they're focused on January 11th, the 24th, and then obviously the night of the 31st / February 1st when she was taken. And so they're saying that it's the weekends. The 11th is a Sunday. The 24th is a Saturday. She was taken the morning of February 1st, Saturday night, Sunday morning, same thing, 31st / 1st. And so they were there on the weekends. Like I said, Monday through Friday, you could have something that's not part of the routine pop up on a Tuesday. Sundays are usually always going to be the same. It's just, I mean, think about your Sundays. More often than not, they're usually the same. Just saying, you go, same time this, same time that, same time. Very easy to pick up people's routines. Started with fake, but the email. Oh my gosh. All your socials are good. What? How in the hell? Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. Unlikely she wore. I don't know. I'm just confused what the whole discussion about the clothes and how that matters. Just like, why does it matter if it's targeted or not? Like, it happened. Does it make a difference what it's for? Not really.
It can certainly help if we had a description of the last known clothing that Nancy was wearing, to your point.
Another thing has just happened. Nanos says he knows.
If they want a description, they can ask Annie, and I'm sure Annie told them the description of the clothes. I'm so confused.
The motive. What happened, Dave Mack?
Maybe it's because there's no lead.
Sheriff Nanos has said many things during the course of this investigation that are problematic, and this is another one. Because Sheriff Nanos says, yeah, we know the motive. We know why this happened. But he is not willing to share that with the rest of us. But he adds, this is a targeted event.
Right.
He also says, well, wait a minute.
How do you know?
Kidnappers could still be out there.
How do you
need
know?
to be... He's actually saying to watch out for yourself. So
they are still out there. Nobody's been caught. What do you mean?
In one breath, he says, we know the motive, we know it's a targeted event, but then turning right around to say nobody's safe.
Idaho 4.
Not something you want to hear from the sheriff of your county.
Idaho 4.
Brian Fitzgibbons, that's exactly what happened in the Idaho case.
Right there.
Where 4 beautiful University of Idaho students were slaughtered. the local law enforcement came out and said, this was targeted, you're all safe.
Yeah.
And then backtracked and went, hey, everybody, lock your doors, you're not safe.
Right.
This is very eerily reminiscent of that faux pas.
And I'll add in one more recent one. After the horrific shooting at Brown University, Mayor Brett Smiley was all over the cameras saying there's no threat to the public, et cetera, right? The situation's well in hand. There's no continuing threat. Why government and officials and law enforcement officials say things like there's no threat to the public is beyond me. Time and again, it's proven that they have no rationale or logical basis to make such a claim. And it shows that their main goal there is to control the narrative and keep people, feeling secure in their power. So it was a number of missteps here by Nanos. This is just one of them.
Number.
Let's take a listen to Sheriff Nanos.
We believe we know why he did this, and we believe that it was targeted, but we're not 100% sure of that. And so it'd be silly to tell people, yeah, don't worry about it. You're not his target. Don't think for a minute that because it happened to the Guthrie family, you're safe. No, keep your wits about you.
From our friends at NBC, there's Nanos at it again. Okay, go with me here on this. What about it, Iker? That he doesn't know who did it, but he can divine why they did it. For ransom, that would be a plausible explanation to explain away what Nanos is saying. Or what about this? Financial scam. Someone connected to her in some way that was taking advantage of or planning to take advantage of her financially.
I definitely agree. And I would more term it as a robbery than a financial scam, because they're forcing basically someone to go to an ATM and withdraw money. I mean, that's a robbery. That's a threat of violence or to that extent. So if we're dealing with that possibility, maybe Nanos is inferring that they grabbed Miss Guthrie and took her to a bank ATM, and then something else happened.
Hello, that's what I was saying from the very beginning. Isn't it kind of creepy? ATM, hello.
We don't know.
Give me your PIN. She gave them her card. Give me the PIN. No. Pistol whip. You're coming with us. You're going to give us the PIN one way or the other.
I wish he would be more specific on the motives that he's found or through the investigation. Then we can at least focus our direction.
You're right, Scott Iker. And to Brian Fitzgibbons, there's many, a plethora of financial scams to siphon money, steal money from the elderly. It doesn't have to be going to an ATM. It could be any number of things. It could be them calling their financial planner and asking for money to be moved. So there's a myriad of things that a financial scam could entail. In this case, have they found evidence of those financial scams? And is there a money trail that could lead us to the perp? Or is this straight out for ransom? Ransom gone wrong?
Yeah, in my opinion, right, this leads more to ransom. Not many of these financial scams, at least ones that take place face to face, are going to happen at 2 a.m. over a weekend. This is those are very typically, especially with the elderly, are going to happen in broad daylight when banks are open, when access codes can be granted to ATMs and things like that. For this to happen at 2 a.m. Leads me to believe that this is more towards the ransom gone wrong than a direct financial scam targeting an elderly woman.
Hi, guys. Nancy Grace here. Please join us on Crime Stories.
1,202,500. That's a frickin' reward. Isn't this like extortion? Who knows, Stone? When there's no leads, there's no direction. There's nothing. It's who knows. ATM has cameras, so why that? Because you don't have to be on camera to make somebody take money out of their ATM. Especially when you have a weapon. Just like you don't have to be on camera when you show up to somebody's door. You know? You don't have to walk up on camera and be like, oh, let me cover my face. But, yeah. Who knows? There's just nothing. There's nothing. They can just bring flowers. Yeah. Yeah. Go up and cover the ATM camera with this. Hey, you got to be consistent, Rosie. If you're going to bring flowers to one camera, you better bring flowers to the next one, right? You got to be consistent. You got to be consistent. If anybody would like to call, you're more than welcome. The phone number is 330-510-1110. You can let us know your theories, thoughts, and opinions if you would like. I have a lot of questions. I'm wondering this 120,000, right? Let me pull that up real quick. The 120,000 signatures, valid signatures needed to recall Sheriff Nanos. In 4 months, they have 4 months to do it. Do you think that they're going to be able to? I don't think so. I don't think so. Maybe if there was 100,000, 150,000, total watching these live on scene streams or something, but they got to have they're like signatures, not somebody calling over the phone saying, yeah, sign me up. I don't know. 120,000 is a lot. I don't see that, and then what kind of crime was this? Passion, random, personal, opportunity? Still don't know. How can the sheriff be so confident that a resolution's coming soon if they don't even know what direction she left her neighborhood? Do you even think they're on the trail? I don't know. I want, like, you got thumbnails from the 11th and the 24th. Like, how can you pick up anything? These are thumbnails. It's not a video. These are just still shots. That big. How do you even know, that the person or people are suspicious on the thumbnail photo? How can you even tell? Unless they're carrying like a big axe or something, and then that's like right up into the thumbnail, maybe. I don't know. That would be, that would be. But other than that, what? Where is this? Where are these avenues that make a resolution possible? Where are these avenues coming from? I just don't even think they're on the trail. Now, I still have to wonder, was it somebody close to the family? I was watching something, I think it was last night. It was on this Iran thing going on, and it was very interesting. I'm trying to recall because I was watching it and I was like, man, that sounds just like what happened with Nancy Guthrie's case. Hackers, and they where they couldn't be detected, doing hacks where they couldn't be detected, hired I believe it was it Mexican cartels to do kidnappings or something. I'm trying to remember. Or maybe it was another program, but I could have swore it was like Mexican cartels hired to just straight up kidnap people for these other people. I'll have to find out what that was. I was half asleep. But, you know, you hear about the polygraph tests, flying colors. You hear, you know, just like we kind of went through tonight, you hear how they do these tests. You hear what the heck? You hear how they do these tests. You hear the types of questions that they ask you. So when they say flying colors, that means there was absolutely no signs, period, that anybody was being deceptive. Now they interviewed the family and the children. Flying colors. So what I mean by somebody close to the family, extend it out. You know, was there a new boyfriend of one of the granddaughters? Stuff like that. You know, where that new boyfriend or was like, hey, wait, wow, this is some nice stuff. I think I'm gonna, you never know. And that's the problem. We don't ever know and won't, because nothing is available. Nothing's there. Uber driver, construction workers. I don't even know why that's even coming about. We'll have to check that one out on the next episode. Brian Enton was talking about it, but we're day 45 here. We're going to now talk to construction workers. Sheriff's lying, I think. I think the sheriff is lying. He's making up. He's stretching the truth. Until I hear something from the FBI, it's like a lot of these panel guests said, I take it with a grain of salt. I don't trust him. I think he's just coming up with stuff so people aren't looking behind him. And he's got to keep that profile for that TV show that they got going on. Desert Law. I don't know. We'll see. Sheriff is, they can get enough signatures. They got 4 months. So in about 3.5, 4 months, we'll find out if there's going to be a push for the sheriff to get recalled. What do you guys think? Do you guys think they can get the 120,000 signatures in 120 days? I don't. You'd basically have to have the whole county and community to be on board with it. And I just don't know. Yeah, I just don't know. But it has been a disaster from the beginning. I know that. And we'll have that show coming up for you here about that disaster of an investigation. All right, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and hop off. we'll go ahead and each night, we'll go ahead and open these up. If anybody does, you're more than welcome. But I'm not sure if we'll be back tomorrow. I'm thinking I will be, but I don't want to promise because I don't know for sure. But take a look for us around the same time tomorrow night. If I'm not back tomorrow night, definitely will be back Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and all those days afterwards. So I appreciate you guys. Thanks for hanging out. Thank you for the support. Thank you again for the contributions. And I'm not sure if I'm going to go head over to the TV channel to do a little bit of winding down, maybe shoot some pool. I don't know. Who knows? Police simulator. Or maybe I might just chill back and watch some tube. But if anything, come check me out over there. I might be hanging out over there. If not, we might see you tomorrow. Probably. Can't promise, but for sure, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and on. And we'll be getting into these other cases too. Idaho 4, Sebastian, Micah, David, Jeffrey Epstein, Kurt Cobain. There's a whole bunch. If y'all saw all the stuff that I have prepped for like 50 different cases, we're ready to go. I appreciate you guys. Love you. Please be safe. And if you have security cameras, please pay the $10. The $10 will go a long way into making sure you're safe. And just think, this case right here, if you didn't have motivation to ever pay the $10, if you didn't ever have the motivation to pay the $10, think about all the footage that could have been captured, saved, and used for this. It's scary to think about, but it's very easy to do. It's $10. It's a couple Big Macs, So for one day out of the month, don't eat Big Macs or roast beefs or tacos or whatever. And just have that subscription for your Ring Cam. It will save a lot of stuff in the long run. I love you guys. Thank you for being here. Thanks for your visit over here at EvilleCJ Media. And we'll be back again. And who knows, I might be over here at the lounge here in a minute. Love you guys. Be safe. We'll see you on the next one.